The What It Takes Radio Company is proud to present Indeed, the Transformation Project. And today, here's the deal. If your customer wants you to help them change, that's a big deal. In fact, that's a transformation. Now, let's listen to the story about just that. Well, here we go, ladies and gentlemen. Once again, it's Friday. Friday's a future day. Friday's when we think about what it might be like to be a leader. I mean, you got the week kind of cleaned up, and now you're going to do a little strategic thinking. And so we have somebody who has spent his life thinking about strategy across the horizons, and he'll tell you that story. By the way, he and I have a story about how we have met, but that's for another place and another time. But this is the man, I oftentimes say, perhaps maybe the godfather, but I'm sure he doesn't quite want that image. But a good friend of mine, Joe Pine, who many of you know, is the leader of the Strategic Horizons, along with his partner, Jim Gilmore, and they have done a little bit of world changing. Remember, people don't talk about customer service anymore. The smart ones use another term, and you'll find out how that happened. Joe Pine, welcome to one of your own creations, the Transformation Project. How are you today?
I'm doing very well, Stan. It's a pleasure to be with you in the Transformation Project.
That's right. Well, and transformation means that we don't want to, in this world, settle for change management, and we don't want to settle for managing small changes. Eventually, we would like something that creates some significance in the world, and that's a transformation. We're in the significance business, okay? Hey, Joe, I'm just going to simply say, you and I agree. All business is show business. So it's your turn in your town, and you're on.
Well, thank you very much, Stan. So I guess we have to start, once upon a time.
Absolutely.
Once upon a time, very, very many years ago.
That's right.
As you well know, right? I was a geek. Well, I like to think I was a geek. My wife Julie says, no, you were a nerd, right? You were never a geek. So I aspired to be a geek, but I was a nerd. I used computers in the late '60s in elementary school. I decided to go to the computer industry. I got an applied math degree, so I could use computers and math, and I joined IBM. Right, IBM in Rochester, Minnesota, where we developed the AS400 mini computer system, along with many others. And I was able to use my math and computer skills in my first job. But about 2 years in, I still to this day don't know how or why this happened. This sort of switch flipped, and I went from being like, I want to be the most technical and knowledgeable and person on computers, to I'm going to go into management and become an executive and so forth. And so I started reading the Harvard Business Review. I get that every month and read it through so I'd understand management. I'd pester my managers and others with questions. I actually became one of the youngest managers ever at IBM in less than 4.5 years working there, and was a success at that. And for the AS400, I got to manage and build basically a group of up to 50, 70 people. It was always rotating people coming in that, who helped us bring customers and business partners into the development of the AS400 system. We had never done that before. A lot of the engineers, particularly, I remember the head of software saying, okay, you got customers coming in here, but don't ever let them talk to my programmers, right? They got a job to do. And so we wouldn't do that, but then we'd whisper to them, right? Hey, there's some customers over here. They can help you out with, what you're concerned with. And so, wow, we can talk to real customers. And they did, and they came over, and the customers loved it, and the programmers loved it. That head of programming became one of my biggest fans after he realized what a difference it made. And of course, again, I had a lot of great people working for and with me. but we greatly improved the quality of the system. We had um, people who were champions of the system because they actually worked on it, right? Both software developers and clients and so forth. And and we had over 1,000 applications available on the system, which had never been done before, right? Usually, you announce the system, and then 6 months later, people start converting their applications. Then finally, you can use it. No, day one, people could use it. They could buy it. Huge success. That's one of the reasons why the Rochester, Minnesota facility was awarded the Malcolm Baldrige National Quality Award
Mhm.
way back when. But one of the things I learned during that time was that every one of those customers was unique. Everyone was different. They wanted to use the system in different ways. They wanted to have different software on it. They wanted to integrate it with different hardware. They were unremittingly unique. And we really didn't take that into account. We had built the system for what we thought was this large mini computer marketplace that simply didn't exist. So I moved over into strategy after that, and read a book by Stan Davis, a 1987 book called Future Perfect. And that book is as good today as it was back then. And when I read it, it was like the heavens opened up and the angels sang, because it described everything that I was seeing. And in there, he had one chapter where he coined the term mass customizing, right? Mass customizing. And I remember him telling me one time when we had dinner, became friends later, is that he just had a bunch of words that he was picking up and putting together and seeing what it meant. If there's anything could spark his creativity. And he picked up mass and he picked up customization. And he went, "Whoa, wait a second, that is interesting." And so began to think about how technology was bringing down the cost of customization, where over time you'd be able to give everybody exactly what they want, but do it with low cost, do it with high volume, do it with mass production techniques and with efficient operations. And so I worked to getting that into our plans and our strategies at IBM. Became one of the pillars of our strategy for the AS400, and you can see that from then on out how mass customized it was. And one day, my manager came into my office and he said, "Hey, I'm reading this thing here, and it says that IBM. Did you know that they send like 4 or 5 people to MIT every year to get a master's degree?" I said, and he said, "Would you be interested in that?" And I said, "Well, I'd have to ask Julie, but yes, sign me up." Right? Absolutely. One of my goals was actually to go up to management executive if I could, and in the age of 40 or 50, retire and go back to school, get a PhD, and then write books and do teaching. And the only question was, what would it be in business subjects or would it be in theology? But one of those I wanted to
Right.
do. And so my wife did approve of that, and he signed me up, and so I got accepted at MIT for the special 1 year program. You go from June to June, so you get 4 semesters in the span of 3 semesters. Get a master's degree in the management of technology, and I found out early on that I had to write a thesis. And I said to myself immediately, well, I'm going to write a thesis I can turn into a book, right? What's the subject? Mass customization, right? It was a chapter in Stan's book. I'm going to write the first full book on mass customization. So when it came time to do the thesis, I basically outlined an entire book. I said, okay, I can get the first 4 chapters and the appendix of all the research that I was doing in that thesis, and then completed that, and then took that and went to my favorite professor, Jim Utterback. Had a friend who was an editor at the Harvard Business School Press at the time, and they were looking for something in the flexible manufacturing space. And so he introduced him to me, and we got a signed contract. I think I'm not even sure it was even before I left IBM. I think it was or MIT. I think it was actually before I left MIT. But anyway, I got a signed contract, and they said, we have one issue, right? One thing we're concerned about. How are you going to write this book when you're at IBM, full-time job? And I said, I don't know, but I'll figure it out. And so I eventually, took me 6 months, but I found a spot in IBM, part of the new IBM consulting group. This group did management research, right? They got to work with professors and develop ideas that the consultants could then consult on. And so I got a job with them basically Went from part-time to full-time out in New York. Lived in Richfield, Connecticut, and I and they gave me 40% of my time to work from home and finish the book. So I got that done, and it was published in late 1992. Mass customization was very successful for them. They really loved it. Didn't go out of print for at least, I think, for 20 years. About it
Mhm.
didn't go out of print. And it's referenced and all that. And it was like MIT was. That was another transformation, where I became an author, right? And that's very significant. I remember about 3 months after the book came out, I happened to be in Boston where Stan Davis lived, and so I took him out to dinner. And at the end of the dinner, he gets out a piece of paper and his pen, and he starts to write on it, and he folds it up and he slides it across the table. And I said, "What's this?" He said, "This is my prediction for you." I said, "What should I open it now or later?" And he said, "Whatever you want." So I opened it right then, and it said, "You will leave IBM within 1 year." And I went, "No, no, no, no! I love IBM. I mean, I have the greatest job in the world. I get to write books and do research. I get to speak to clients, right? Do workshops and executive education. And my dad considered me to be brainwashed, right? That I bled blue. That I love the company so much. But 3 months later, I called them up and said, 'You're right.'" Right. I left IBM only because they offered me and my wife, Julie, 6 months' salary to leave. And so I said, let me see if I can make it on my own. I can always get another job. And there was one thing, though, that I really wanted to have happen is that these couple of professors that I was working with, we had submitted an article to the Harvard Business Review. And I knew that if I get an article in the Harvard Business Review, that I'd be able to get people to call me and get client jobs. The book had IBM's address on there.
Mhm.
We had you alluded to it earlier, but my wife Julie came up with this name of Strategic Horizons, right? That's the company. So I needed to call people to call Strategic Horizons, not IBM. So, but they didn't come and didn't come. My wife and I were praying about it. Um, said, "We can get this article. I know it'll work." And finally, it was the last day, right? June 30th, 1993, that we had to sign our papers. We decided that previous night, I said, "All right, we're both gonna leave. Even if we don't get the HBR, we'll figure out how to make it work." So we signed our papers the next day, and that afternoon, HBR editor calls and says, "We'd like to publish your article in September. We got a rush job. We got to finish this because we got a hole in the journal." All right, that was providence, and that's how God answered the prayer. Says, you go out there, take the leap, and then you'll get the answer to your prayer.
Mhm.
So I um, so I was hoping to do a lot of networking and cleaning out those last 2 weeks, but I ended up spending up almost time on finishing this article, which came out, and that was making mass customization work with Bart Victor and Andrew Boynton, the professors I knew, and that set me off on my career. And in fact, the next year and a half or two, IBM was my biggest client, right? They hired me to come back and tell their clients about mass customization, train their consultants on mass customization, and so forth. And I remember I think it was in early 1994, I was doing a uh, day long executive education session with a bunch of IBM consultants. And I said something that I often did, which is that mass customization automatically turns a service or turns a good into a service. Right? If you look at the classic distinctions, goods are standardized, but services are customized just for a particular person. Goods are inventoried after production, but services are delivered on demand when the customer says this is what they want. And goods are tangible and services intangible. Part and parcel of mass customization is the intangible service of helping them figure out what is it they want. So you work with them individually, you help them define or design exactly the physical good that they want, but then you make it for them on demand, deliver it to them individually, and turn it into a service. So there's this consultant at the back of the room, sort of a smart aleck I'd learned that day, and he raises his hand and he says, "Well, you had talked about service companies that mass customize as well. What does mass customization turn a service into?" right? And he was expecting sort of like he doesn't have an answer for this and that, and I didn't have an answer to that. But I said, what came out of my mouth was mass customization automatically turns a service into an experience.
Bingo.
I went, wow, that sounds good, right? Hold on a sec, I got to write that down. And again, providence, right? Just pure providence coming out of my mouth. And I worked on that, and I realized that that was true. That if you design a service that was particularly appropriate for this individual person at this moment in time, then you can't help but make them go wow and turn it into a memorable event, turn it into an experience. That meant that experiences were a distinct economic offering, as distinct from services as services were from goods. That meant that there'd be an economy based off experiences, following the agrarian economy based off commodities, the industrial economy based off goods, the service economy. And finally, now, 30 years later, we're in the experience economy, right? We are here. This is it. And so that led to the book, The Experience Economy, that discovery of it. I always say I didn't invent it. I just discovered what companies were naturally doing. I picked up a couple of partners on the way, Jim Gilmore, who co-authored The Experience Economy with me, and Doug Parker, who is our managing partner and does everything else other than the speaking, teaching, consulting, and writing that we do. And so that's I'll say also that our it's still called Strategic Horizons, but our basically theme of the business is frameworks are us, right? That we develop frameworks, and this is my personal purpose in business, is to develop frameworks that first describe what's happening in the world and then prescribe what companies can do about that. And now I've been doing that for 30 years.
And I just want to give a highlight now. That means, now listen, as I just got another thing from a bank, and they said, would you describe your experience with us? And
Right.
so every time you hear the word customer experience, that is a stolen good. They stole it from Joe right there.
Well, it isn't just that they stole it; they bastardized it in the process.
That's right. They turned it into something different, which of course is what they do. But
Right.
that's where the term customer service, no, it's a customer experience. And then, of course, I then stole it even more so because I actually did some workshops, and he was nice enough to let me, what does a pig carrying baseballs have to do with marketing you? Well, the whole idea was that there was a baseball team in St. Paul that played bad baseball, lousy product.
They're better
But of
today.
course,
Yeah.
what they did have, what people came for, is that there was a pig who would bring the baseball out. And so they weren't selling a baseball game at all. They were selling a crazy experience.
Right. And you also, I remember you talking about what does a Lexus car have to do with a cup of coffee?
That's right, because when my wife, when we had this, finally we had an old used Lexus we were so happy with. As I point out, she drove. There was a blinker light that was out. And so I said, she said, I'll fix it. She said, I'm going to go to the dealer. I said, don't go to the dealer. She went to the dealer, of course. And of course, the guy comes up to her and says, oh, Mrs. Husted. He checked the thing. And eventually, would you like to have some cup of coffee? Would you like to do this? And of course, 30 minutes later, a 98-cent bulb, she has a $98 bill. And she's delighted because Lexus was not selling a light bulb.
Yeah.
They were selling an experience.
Exactly. And then a lot of manufacturers like that surround their physical goods with the service, with the experience. A lot of service companies, right, embed it within an experience as well, and it allows them to charge a premium price and so forth.
And this is the Godfather.
Right. But don't call it CX, right? I mean,
that's right.
CX is basically, I say bastardized because when most people, maybe not everybody, right, but when most people use the term, they mean, let's make our interactions with the customers nice and easy and convenient. And those are all well and good, but those are service characteristics. They aren't experience characteristics, right? Nice is nice, but rarely does it rise to the level of memorability. If you don't remember it, it wasn't a true distinctive experience. When we make things easy for our customers, we often routinize things for our employees, maybe even automate them to make it easy for customers to get service. But that gets in the way of being inherently personal. And
Right.
experiences actually happen inside of us in reaction to the events that are staged in front of us, and where and convenience is the antithesis of what I'm talking about, because convenience means let's get in and out as quickly as possible. Let's spend as little time with customers as possible. When with experiences is what they value is the time they spend with the company, right? That's what you have to. The experience is the design of time, and you want to make it not time well saved like service companies do, but time well spent. That people value that.
One of my things that Joe and I've talked about, because as I oftentimes say, as you'll know, my story is I was Joe's teacher, but then he became my mentor, and that's basically it in many ways. That finding that reality being very, very different from what I had ever called customer service, and that was the idea, and I give him the credit for that, very much so. But then what happened is, when he wrote the book, he alluded that there might be a next stage, and that's where we're perhaps becoming right now. So
Right,
we're going
exactly.
from an experience to a
Transformation.
transformation.
Right.
Tell us more.
So,
Give us an
one of the things
idea of where we're going.
right, one of the things I've always done is ask what's next. Right, if you see
Right.
something, okay, what's next? And what I realized, like goods and services can be commoditized, experiences can be commoditized as well. Been there, done that. That's commoditized experience. And using this heuristic where customization is the antidote to commoditization. Commoditization is like the law of gravity. If you do nothing else, it'll just drag you down year after year. Customization lifts you up. It enables you to be differentiated because of working directly with the customer. So I asked myself, what happens when you customize an experience? When you design an experience that's so appropriate for this particular person, exactly the experience that they need at this moment in time. Well, then you can't help but turn to what we often call a life transforming experience, an experience that changes us in some way. And that I call a transformation, right? Transformation is the fifth and final economic offering in this progression of economic value that I outlined, where you use experiences as the raw material to guide people to change, to achieve their aspirations. And that's what a transformation is. In any business, in the business of helping people be healthy, wealthy, or wise, as Ben Franklin once wisely said, is in the business of transformation. That to have health and wealth and well-being and wisdom, excuse me, is what transformation businesses enable you to have.
Well, we're going to take a little bit of a break now, and I want you to think about that, okay? And we'll have a little bit of a promo, and then we're going to come back, and then Joe is going to finish the story. Once again, thank you for joining us on Interesting Ideas, the Interesting Ideas podcast. And what we say is just that. Ideas lead to insight, influence, impact, and income. And we want to do so that you can have better living starting now. Now, what I'm doing is what you can do too. You see, since I have my own podcast and I help other people do podcasts, I can bring people like Joe Pine and others into my stream of influence. So these good guests are helpful to me and they're helpful to you. And as a result of that, I can grow my business. So why don't you think about doing something very similar for your business? So why don't you reach out to me? I'm Stan, and I lead What It Takes Radio. That's right, the What It Takes Radio company, and we are a podcasting and publishing company, and we are here to help you make your mark in the world by being on the radio. Let's see if we can help you do that starting now. Okay, Joe, we're back. And now we have about 7 more minutes. And so you're going to make it a perfect time You'll transform the whole 7 minutes into something useful and helpful for us. So, once again, Joe, you're on.
Well, one of the most important things to understand here also is that transformations are a distinct economic offering. That they're what people want to buy from you. Is basically they're saying change me. So you need to think about how do you help people achieve their aspirations, right? That means you need to understand. I always like to do it in terms of from to statements, right? Where are they today from, and what do they want to become to? Then you have to design a set of experiences that allows them to go from where they are today to this new aspiration, right? Now, generally, it's not one life transforming experience. Generally, it's a set of experiences. Generally, they're not always go monotonically increasing. Generally, there's ups and downs as you go through this process till you get to where you want. And then you also need to have what I call follow through, which is not the same as follow up, right? Follow up is, hi, how you doing? Follow through is ensuring that the transformation takes hold, that you do it through time. And so it's a process to be able to think about in terms of what do your customers want and how can you guide them in that transformation. And another thing to recognize is that you are what you charge for. And as a company, you are what you charge for. If you charge for undifferentiated stuff, you're in the commodities business. If you charge for tangible things, you're in the goods business. If you charge for the activities your people perform, you're in the service business and you're in the experience business economically, if and only if you charge for time against time well spent, right? It means charging an admission fee or a membership fee of some sort. With transformations, it's charging for the demonstrated outcome your customers achieve, right? Because nothing else matters. Doesn't matter. All the activities you do, all the experiences they have, they don't matter unless they achieve their aspiration. So you need to get paid accordingly based on how well you guide them, right? That's the economic function, guiding to achieve that aspiration. Services are delivered, experiences are staged, right? You're on, but transformations are guided over that period of time. And
And
with transformation,
that's where business is going.
yep.
Get
Yeah,
used to it.
yes, across all different sectors, consumer and B2B, right? Because it's basically asking five whys, old manufacturing technique. They want to buy your widget. Well, why do you want your widget, right? Well, because I want to grind these gears, right? Why do you want to grind those gears? Because I want to make and you get back to the original, the core aspiration that they have, whether it's become a better person in some way, become a better business in some way, have a better relationship with people, whatever it might be. And then you're again there to guide them to be able to do that.
Okay. Wow. That's a significant challenge. How are you going to help them do that, Joe? We'll let you pitch now, okay?
All right. All right. Well, in fact, I am writing the next book. Right. I've written several since the experience kind of came out, and it's come out 3 different times. But I'm writing the next book on transformations, tentatively titled "The Transformation Economy," um, and um, and I'm going to show people how to go about doing this, right? How to guide transformations, what it all means, and so forth. And to do that, actually, I'm coming out with actually within a week, mostly two, but probably at the end of next week, coming out with a new offering, a subscription offering based on Substack, where people can subscribe $20 a month or $200 a year to get access to my thinking on this, to see how I think about it, but also then access to all the writing. I'm going to write the book online with these people who give me feedback on it, and make the book better, right? And that's a key, and it's already worked. Yeah, what I really want it for is the catalyst, right? To ensure that I write, right? It's my catalytic mechanism to make sure that I write, and because there's this gaping maw of people that are paying money to hear from me, so it's already worked. I've got some posts already prepared, and I'm going to continue on that until the book is fully written with the help of this subscription offering.
It's an exciting venture. It's an exciting venture. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, now you know where all of this is leading. And here was episode 4 in the Transformation Project. Come back and listen to this thing again. As one of my friends would say, if it's good, listen to it 7 times and then you'll get it. So please do that and then go to the subscription, and it's $20 well spent.
Thank you very much, Stan.
Thank you very much. And thank you for your time on the Transformation Project. Again, another interesting idea for, you know what? For insight, for influence, for income, and most importantly, for impacting the world and making it a better place for you and me. Be blessed, my friend, and come back.